competitive decisions always. Lead the advocacy efforts and get a Zach Lystat law in every state. So very simple mandate, and basically you just said, you just tell us what you need. We will make it happen. This is the collection of folks that have joined the effort, and I'm proud to be on that slide. Rich is a wonderful neurosurgeon in Seattle, the chairman at the University of Washington. Of the entire picture there, the only one that doesn't look like the south end of a northbound mule is in the bottom left, our lovely Margot Patukian from Princeton. And Kevin, of course, you know, Bob Harbaugh, we brought on for our prospective database. He has enormous background in databasing, which we use at the American Board of Neurological Surgery and others. Mitch Berger is a great pal of mine. He's chairman of neurosurgery at UCSF. Stan Herring at University of Washington drove the effort that got us a Lystat law. And Russ Lonser brings great expertise. He's the chairman of neurosurgery at the NIH, and his connections there are very helpful. Well, this is an unpleasant day. When Rich and I were briefed at the National Football League by some middle-level staffers, and their bottom line was, walking out of there, this isn't about you. This is about the congresspersons. They got to have their day in the sun and a soundbite. Just think of yourself as like kind of a chair or an ashtray, and don't be confrontational. So, you know, Rich and I were just walking on air out of there. I mean, good Lord, how wonderful is that? So we get there, and it's a little bit unpleasant. You can see from Dr. Ellenbogen that was obviously not enjoying things. Congressman Anthony Weiner is a member of that subcommittee, and he came in late, 15 minutes, stylishly late, snarled at the chairwoman, took his plate, waited his turn, and he got the microphone, and he screams, looks down, he screams, he said, "Which one of you doctors is an expert in the manufacture, design, and testing of athletic armor?" Like that. Spittle raining down on us. It was fun. So over the next few months, as I would watch on network news, the spiraling down the toilet of that career, it didn't evoke. I'm living with the pain, should I say. Bob Harbaugh's subcommittee here, a bunch of great people, Rich Glicklick from Outcome Sciences, that's the database platform. The idea is to get around this problem. When we do surveys, and that's what was available to us when we came in, these are sort of phone or mailed surveys that individuals that might have some cognitive impairment are expected to fill out. And there was not a lot of great data in it, quite honestly, but the idea is to get prospectively, when they come in through their first combine, let's get some data. It needs to be genetic, as I mentioned. We want, with Kevin, to get accelerometer data showing all impacts, practice and play throughout their career. And that is a goal. That will allow us to really understand what the dimensions of this problem and what the triggers are. But the issues are really important. You know, the players are worried about security of the data. You know, your health information is pretty secure, but it's not bulletproof. But what if an owner gets access to that sort of, say, accelerometer data? That might be an important issue during a contract negotiation. So we've really gotten a lot of legal help to try to make this as bulletproof as it can humanly be. The Retired Players Committee under Dr. Berger are doing several things, and I think the most important is a prospective study looking at the impact of an NFL career compared to an NCAA football career, compared to a non-sports career, age-matched, ethnicity-matched, and other risk factors. And I think that has the potential to determine whether former NFL players are at increased risk for neurocognitive problems later in life, and if so, is it due to repetitive concussive and subconcussive injuries? Kevin's committee, the safety equipment, has really been very, very active and done a lot of great things, interested in not only impact data from accelerometers, but materials sciences, and I'll show you just a snippet of that, and then the impact on potential rules changes. This was a wonderful meeting in December 2010 that Kevin basically chaired and the rest of us sat around and watched. We had some excellent engineers from Penn and Duke, Meany and Myers. We had the MIT BLAST engineers. John Giannopoulos is their leader. We had DARPA, DOD, CDC, NIH, and NOXI all there. Motorsports was represented. Every accelerometer and helmet manufacturer was there. And the idea was to finalize plans for on-field testing in the National Football League and look at new technology. So it's really extraordinary. Kevin presented data. He's published tons over the years at the NCAA level, showing the impact of position. But the real question that kept coming up, and I think that he's articulated very well, is what is the clinical impact of these various accelerometer data? And you see enormous impacts from which a player walks away from, and other much less magnitude where there's a clinical event. And that's where we really need to get into the guts of this. Well, as has been stated, there is no concussion-proof helmet. There is excellent marketing, but it has no relationship to science. The NOXI standard is a great protector against catastrophic failure, but the shell may actually worsen concussive level impacts and their impact on the player. We need to get laboratory validation on the accelerometers in order to proceed, and there are potholes in this related to politics that we don't have time to address, perhaps during discussion, and we're going to keep abreast of the material sciences developments, particularly with MIT and DOD. They have some nanotechnology work that I think is going to be very promising for sports. And then the motorsports data, they found that when you downsize adult helmets to a child's size, it in fact is not protective. So that's something we really need to think about in other sports. So here we go with some of the preliminary pilot data that was done with the HIT system. These are accelerometers built into the padding that Kevin's had great experience with. In contrast to the BTX2 impact system, which is a mouthguard piece. And some of the preliminary data, I'll just show you a couple of points. The linear acceleration, this was with HITs, looks great. That is very valid, that looks fine. And then when you get to rotational acceleration, the data fell apart. And it happened with both devices, exactly the same pattern. And that led Kevin and our committee to be thinking, was this a problem with the testing site? Was this, what is going on here? And one of the great things about the National Football League is when you call the busiest person on the block, say, well, the NFL needs your help to, sure, when do I come? And they just make it. And Gunnar Sigmund was recruited into this effort, and he's now running studies, I presume, as we speak, Kevin, which include the HIT system, the X2 impact, and a Cleveland Clinic mouthguard device that is going to be using this new hybrid 3 with dentitions to accommodate the mouthguard. And he's going to use 2 independent laboratories simultaneous, one in Memphis, one in Ottawa, looking at all 3 systems with the goal that we really compare and try to use NFL-like mechanisms of injury and determine if either of these accelerometers are going to give us credible data that we can go to the Players Association and say, let's go live on field. Research committee, Russ Longer's committee, they evaluate on a peer review process all the applications for NFL charities. The numbers of applications are going up big time. And we get every 2 or 3 days, our committee members get I refer to it as a snake oil request where, Agent Orange is now, this is going to be the silver bullet, it's going to cure concussions. And we send them to Russ and they peer review them. And this is the most recent on hyperbarics, which I think is going to be helpful to our athletes. At the present moment, there is not good evidence-based data to support it, but there are 4 Department of Defense studies underway. Colonel Jeff Ling on our committee is running several of those, and I think we may get lucky here. Zach Lystad has been covered the elements of this law I won't dwell on, but I want to update Margot's, this is when it was signed into law by the governor. We went to Seattle, and we had decided we'd go to the governors and try to give them a module on how to get these laws passed, and we realized that most of those people were going to be voted out of office in January. So we decided to create a module, and this was a meeting that the commissioner went to. That's General Chiarelli, Rich, Jeff Miller, who's an attorney for the NFL in Washington, who has really gotten these things done. And there's some very poignant moments with the commissioner and Zach. And the commissioner gave him an award that night, which was wonderful. This is updated 6 months from the slide Margot showed you. I hope you can remember it. This is now what the United States map looks like. We filled in a lot of blanks over the last few months, and there are several others that are close. California went. So we've got about 13 or 14 states left to get that job completed. Margot showed some of your stuff, and I want to skip through it. She deserves unbelievable credit for working with a raucous, difficult bunch of people. We were on suicide watch for Margot because she, you know, her teeth were grinding so hard the dogs had their ears, sticking up. But she got it done. She got this a very disparate group of people to agree on some principles, to get these documents out, to get an on-field assessment done that is really wonderful. They've revised it this year. Go, no-go issues. And her principles are, it's not a replacement for judgment of the team physician and trainer, but it's just a way to lay out validated tools to minimize risk of missing things. Well, the challenges that we faced have been significant and several. This is one. This is Kevin Cobb sustaining a concussive injury right there. Two plays later, he was helped off the field. The trainer and physician were with him on the sideline, looking opposite the field. They did not have any visibility to the field when this play occurred. 2 plays later, 55 down there, Stuart Bradley. The Troy Aikman was calling the game. He said, "Oh my God, he's had a huge concussion. He's out. He's out of there." Well, that's nice. 50 million Americans saw it, but nobody that had action capability saw it. The team physician and trainer were otherwise occupied with Cobb. And you'll see the stagger. This is what got Troy's attention. So there you go. I mean, so making sure we're able to pick these things up on field, that's a challenge. Jason Witten. I'm an old Cowboys fan. I love Jason. He's a great competitor. Here he gets kind of a triple hit. And he goes down. This is the second layer of challenge. He's coming off the field, helped off. His helmet's been removed. We don't have the audio on this, but I think they were talking about some opera ticket issues for the next weekend. He's a great competitor, and he wants to be on the field, bottom line. Working with the Players Association. Dr. Guskowitz and Dr. Patukian probably are getting gastric distress and possibly coronary pain. But, you know, we're physicians working for the betterment of the players, and there's a lot of commonality, but there are some different priorities, and it makes it, and we have to have their participation. Week 6, 2010, Ellen Bogan and I were sitting there having a beer in the San Francisco airport and watching streams of unbelievable injuries on ESPN, called Jeff Pash and said, "Jeff, there's going to be some dead people out here. This has got to stop."
The purpose of this video
2 days later,
is not
this
to
came
lecture.
out. All players had to listen.
It is to give fair and clear notice that effective immediately, the league office will enforce at higher levels our rules that prohibit illegal hits to the neck and head area. Discipline for violations will include bigger fines or suspension without pay. These safety rules are made by experienced football people, including the competition committee, game officials, coaches, and former players. They are not the creation of the league office. The officials have been instructed that beginning this week, they are to enforce these rules strictly. They will err on the side of safety and throw the flag in close bang-bang plays. Illegal hits to the head of an opponent will not be tolerated. A player is accountable for what he hits. Illegal techniques must be removed from our game.
You know, you've seen several of these, so that was a great message, and this was his conclusion. Watch this.
Now take a look at some positive plays. As these plays show, hard, effective hits can be delivered within the rules. A punter pursuing on a kick play is a defenseless player under the rule. The Chicago player avoids an illegal hit by going shoulder to chest, yet delivers a solid blow that takes the punter out of the play. Nice adjustment made here to play within the rules and avoid blowing an opponent up.
So, you know, I thought that was a really great message. It came very fast after a bad week. Here's the Dillman injury. If you watch carefully, he stumbles back, and there's an official standing right there, watching him, staggering.
I'm good.
So he stayed in the game, developed symptoms of concussion after the game, bad headaches, had a seizure on the flight home. So immediately, the officials were charged with observing for injuries as well as their other duties. There's a master control booth at the league office with observers who are watching all games with access to both benches if they see something. An observer was also placed in the replay booth with a phone link to the team physicians as a result of that play. In youth sports, obviously, us as parents need to keep our eyes open. And Kevin showed this. Colt McCoy. We have an athletic trainer in the booth watching that play. He saw exactly what you and I saw. The trouble is that the team physician and trainer did not see it. The trainer who was watching saw the team physician run out onto the field, and he said, "Oh, we're golden." He said, "It's fine." The problem is the team physician was going after another injured player and didn't see Colt get hit. And as you know, he went back in the game. Another policy change. An athletic trainer, experienced in the replay booth, and these are typically collegiate individuals, access to 8 replay cameras, phone lines to both benches, video monitors on both sides of the bench, a beautiful flat panel screen that both physicians have access to. They can watch the replays to determine the mechanism of injury. Did he trip over something, or was he hit by a bus? We are grappling with specific rules for when the full sideline assessment tool, Margot's, has to be deployed, and are lobbying against a sideline neurologist, an independent neurologist, which the NFLPA is arguing for, and I'll answer questions about that if you would like. So what happened as a result of some policy changes? You can see the numbers here. This is all concussions leading up to last year. A steady increase, 17% increase in 2010 year over year. The rules changes that you're aware of, Rich McKay and the competition committee are very, very active and concerned about special teams. The restraining line was moved from the 30 to 35 line, yard line, and the Madden rule was adopted, and that is when somebody is concussed, they're off the field, not looking for their helmet. And as a result of that kickoff change, on kickoff plays for the past year, the concussions were dropped in half. They were cut in half on kickoff plays, so it's obvious impact. Interestingly, when you look at overall injuries during kickoffs, they were really unchanged, flat line, but they were minor. They were ligamentous sprains. And here's the explanation for it. If you look year over year, from 2010, there were over 2,000 total returns. That dropped to 1,375 last year, and touchbacks were tripled. So if you look at concussive injuries per run back, they were at their normal rate. There were just fewer run backs. And that translated into fewer concussions for the first time rather than more. Again, 2008 reaching a peak, 2010, and actually cutting Super Bowl down some year over year. So those things can have an impact, and then I won't deal with Bountygate. I can assure you that the penalties are going to be severe and durable to hopefully minimize the chance of this happening again. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. You have now received as thorough and comprehensive a review of the science and studies that are going on around the concussion issue as any group can get. As you see, these four individuals are literally the national leaders in this whole arena, and we appreciate your great contributions both today, but also to the science that you're conducting. So, do you have any questions for our panelists? I'm sure, I was noticing the one very complex slide that Hunt put up there. I wasn't sure that he had all the statistical analysis correct. Would anybody like him to go back and review the? Because I thought you used a lisseral model, and I wasn't sure that your range of that was, okay. No?
That publication never would have made it in a significant neuroscience journal. The clinical vignettes did not describe patients with ALS or Lou Gehrig's disease. That was not how those patients present. It was sort of connecting dots with vapor, and it has essentially no credibility in the neuroscience community. I'm sorry? I was impressed that it somehow passed peer review.
Yeah, I mean, one of the challenges in all of science, but especially when it's connected to something that the world finds entertaining like sport, is that reporters and bloggers and others have different levels of proof of evidence than do legitimate scientists. And so you find any number of people who will draw connections between dots that good, hard science would never, ever do, but it makes for a great punchline.
So those 1- and 2-star helmets are actually out on the market. All 15 helmets that were tested as part of that study are available, commercially available. And it'll be interesting to see. This is the second year of those published star ratings. And so I think the ones that are the 1 and 2 stars are going to have a difficult time, and they should. So.
You know, one of the other issues, obviously, with helmets is the cost associated with them, and especially as you get down into youth sport. We, the NCAA, are working with a number of other organizations to try and create a model that I hope we'll be able to announce fairly soon to try and get higher quality helmets down into low-income schools in the K-12 system, because there's some equipment out there that's just old, worn out, poorly reconditioned, bad equipment.
I mean, I would say that there are a lot of athletes that don't report their injuries. So, I mean, my sense is that he's probably telling you, I had these injuries, but they never came to the attention of the medical staff. I mean, when you look at most of the statistics, at least at the college level, and I'm sure it's true at the professional level as well, there's a higher injury incidence in games versus practice. Pretty much every injury, almost every sport. But my sense is that a lot of times, again, these are being under-recognized and under-reported. And, you know, the idea is to try to increase the number of athletes that are going to come forward and say, I might have a concussion. The hard part is that a lot of times they wait till after the game, and they go, oh, yeah, the hit occurred, you know, 3 days ago or 4 days ago, but I wanted to play. So.
And I agree with Margot that the highest incidence rate is in game events, and that's as calculated by athlete exposure. But if you actually look at the absolute number of concussions that take place, there are more in practice, but it's because of the number of hours spent on a practice field. And so those are the ones we have to watch for. And I know that a lot of the conferences have talked about, there has been talk about beginning to minimize the number of days of contact practice. It's already happened in the Ivy League. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's going to be tough. It's about a competitive playing, leveling the playing field. I mean, you have teams from different conferences obviously playing each other, and it's going to be tricky.
Well, thank you very much for your attention to this obviously terribly important issue to all of us in the athletic world. We really appreciate it, and please join me again in thanking this wonderful panel. This is a great group here.
And Mark, Kevin, Margot, Mike, Hunt, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all of your time, and we will make sure that we send either on CD or by email copies of the presentations. So we really appreciate it. Share this information with your colleagues, please.